Hello everyone, welcome on Tridion Docs 15.3 Bootcamp related to client tools. My name is Andriy Zhidko. I'm product owner working with Tridion Docs product line, and I will be with you during this bootcamp. So let's start. In the agenda today we have platform updates for client tools, performance improvements, we will cover maps preview, metadata configuration changes, search and other improvements, XML editor support for client tools, and last but not least, Oxygen AI positron. So let's start. For platform updates, we continue the process of removing dependencies on the legacy .NET full framework. And if you would like to learn more about the current product architecture and its components, I encourage you to watch the Content Manager and OpenAPI Bootcamp. In this bootcamp, I'm focusing only on parts that are related to client tools. So one of the components that was migrated from .NET full framework to .NET 10 is SOAP web services with modern authentication, or OWCF. So let's look at the architecture diagram in context of WCF API. So as I mentioned, the full architecture for the system is available as an overview in Tridion Docs Content Manager and OpenAPI Bootcamp. So in Tridion Docs 15.2 version, the WCF endpoint with modern notifications, this square, was built against .NET full framework, and in 15.3 version it is retargeted to .NET 10, and all client tools applications are using it, as well as translation organizer and issue mode version 8 and higher. And there are still WCF with WCF endpoint that are targeting full framework with internal authentication and VS Trust, but they are not used within the product anymore, and they can be used by older versions of issue mode or custom extensions. So as a result of the change of migration SOAP web services modern authentication to .NET 10, there is no web config file anymore. So the configuration file is upsetting JSON, and the connection configuration endpoint that is used as a discovery endpoint for client tools account functionality and for issue mode session setup. So it is not a static file anymore. You can still request that configuration by the same URL, but the return data is generated using the configuration that is coming from upsetting JSON, and the format of the data remains the same, and this is done for backward compatibility. And the required settings in upsetting JSON file are set during installation. So another case that is related to product migration from .NET full framework to .NET 10 that I would like to mention is synchronization endpoint. It is used by client tools for the file synchronization process with the Content Manager server. So in the previous version, client tools were using XAPI internal API to synchronize with Tridion Docs server, and XAPI or XAPI is removed in context of Tridion Docs 15.3. In XAPI endpoints are migrated to OpenAPI, and endpoints that are meant for internal usage, they are not included in the public version of the Tridion Docs OpenAPI. Draft space and review space are required to use OpenAPI, and the synchronization endpoint that is used by client tools was migrated to OWCF API. And if you would like to learn more about XAPI removal, please watch a dedicated bootcamp for Content Manager and OpenAPI. So as I mentioned, synchronization endpoint was moved from XAPI to OWCF, and this endpoint returns the list of files that require synchronization. This is how it looked before, and this is how it looks like starting from version 15.3. And the actual, so as I said, like this endpoint returns the list of files that you need to synchronize, and the actual file synchronization is happening using shared files endpoint. And before it was hosted in the legacy HCM application, and now it has been moved to OWCF API. And this endpoint has anonymous authentication enabled as it had before as well. So now let's also cover sync info that is used for hosting the configuration that for a file that requires synchronization between client and the server. So previously sync info XML file was available or was stored in the legacy HCM application under outer ASP client config. Now it has been moved to OWCF application. And also the shared files location. So previously shared files location was hard-coded value in InfoShare Web Outer ASP, and now this is a configurable entry in app settings JSON file of OWCF application. So the location is the same, but now it is a configurable entry. So this is a list of content types that are supported. So the list consists of standard content types defined by .NET, and the full list of supported content types that are defined by .NET is huge. So it's around 400 entries. So on this slide, you see the main ones. And yeah, in the future, Microsoft maybe even extend the list. And we also added extra content types that are defined in the code to that list that is supported by .NET. So you can see them on this screen. To our knowledge, the list of these two lists are the same as they were before, and they should suit all our customers. And in case you are missing a certain combination, please let us know. So this is a good time to remind you about our policy about the compatibility for between client tools and Content Manager server versions. So clients of the same versions that they are supported against Content Manager server of the same version. So this is this green boxes that you can see on the slide. And clients of the later versions can connect and work against Content Manager of the earlier version. This is a yellow box that you can see on this screen. And with the new synchronization endpoint, we are not breaking this rule. So clients of the version 15.3 and later can connect to the server version 15.2 and earlier. In this case, the old synchronization endpoint will be used. And clients of the earlier versions are not supported against Content Manager server of the later versions. This is the red boxes that you can see on the screen. And because within the migration of synchronization endpoint to OWCF, it will not work because there is no endpoint anymore available for synchronization. So let's continue with performance improvements for the client tools. A set of performance improvements was implemented for client tools like better handling of large local storage when it contains 10,000 items and more. We are doing less eager retrieval of data maps during the load, and in certain situations we were requesting retrieving images 2 times and more. This is not the case anymore. So these changes are mostly visible in publication manager when loading larger publications. So publication initialization and baseline initialization takes less time. And outer-ring bridge benefits from this change to the local storage code as well. And this change is also available in Tridion docs 15.2.2 version. In this section, let's talk about the change for the maps preview in Publication Manager and Organized Space. So we received a set of messages about the map preview performance in Publication Manager, and after investigation that we did, we figured out the calculation for the outline numbers for the map takes a decent part of the cost for the preview engine, and as a result, we made a change so that the topic refs inside data map are no longer numbered. So you can see on this screens, this is how it worked in 15.2.1 and earlier, and this is how it's going to work in 15.3 version. Since the preview engine is shared across Publication Manager and Organized Space, the changes apply to both clients. And for customers who would like to have a numbered list for the topic refs in the map, they can use the XSL variable that is called appearance.showOutlineNumbers in the preview common infoshare.params XSL file and set its value to yes. And it's also important to mention that so this change is also available in Tridion docs 15.2.2 version. So let's continue with metadata configuration and talk about assist attribute. And first, let's start with the reason for this change. So as a background, assist attribute was allowed to be used on the text and multi-line text elements, and if specified, it was enabling the assist button for UI elements. And this assist attribute was supported only by client tools code and inside API 2.5 and an organized space and collective spaces that are using OpenAPI and the XAPI underneath. It required a conversion in the API layer to type tag list elements. So as part of Tridion docs 15.3, we decided to align the configuration across all client applications. So what we did in context of 15.3 release, so we updated the XSD file for metadata config XML and removed assist and filter attributes as well as the value list element from type text and type multi-line text elements. And the out-of-the-box metadata config file XML that we deliver as part of Tridion docs 15.3 was updated and assist attribute was removed, and type text and type multi-line text elements that they were converted to type tag list element. As a result of the change to the metadata config XML file, we increased the version for that file. So now the version is 1.6. And we implemented a backward compatibility support that I will cover in the next slide. So as I mentioned, backward compatibility was implemented to give customer time to migrate their metadata config XML from older versions to version 1.6. And so for the metadata config XML file of version that is lower than 1.6, we do automatic conversion to the latest version in the code. And although the backward compatibility is in place, we anyway recommend you updating your metadata config XML to the latest version as part of the upgrade process to Tridion Docs 15.3. And please validate your metadata config XML after updates against metadata config XSD schema. So it's also important to mention the certain behavior, the difference between client tools in organized space and the collective spaces. So, so it is like when you are doing configuration using type tag list elements, you don't need to specify all of them. In the client tools, you can specify multiple. It is supported. So for example, for one field, you can specify and configure auto-suggest. And for another, you can use structured view. In client tools, it's going to work, it is supported. However, in organized space or collective spaces, the behavior is different. So you need to choose the ones that you're going to use. So either auto-suggest or structure view or value panel. Because if multiple are configured, the auto-suggest always wins. So please take this behavior into account and choose the UX control that suits you better. Now let's continue with updates for the search. Previously, the search publication was case sensitive, which was creating issues for customers with findability, where you need to specify the exact publication title to be able to find it. And for example, while for organized space, it was case insensitive. So we aligned the behavior across publication manager and organized space. And the behavior can be configured using metadata filter operator, where a case insensitive search has a corresponding entry as CI-like. CI-like is not an easy to understand for the end user. That is why in UI tooltips, when you hover over, you will see term contains. And it's also important to mention that the change for case insensitive search applies to string type fields only, so you cannot use it for number, for example. Let's continue with other improvements for client tools. This release brings a series of fixes and enhancements that improves the performance, reliability, and usability of Publication Manager. So drag and drop for root bookmaps now works correctly, and when adding the root bookmap to the publication, the end user can continue adding document objects inside it. In Publication Manager, in lists, when document object is updated, like single document object by a user, for example, status was changed for that object, the information about the object is reloaded immediately without delays. Variable references in Oxygen XML editor now correctly open the corresponding library topic when clicked. That improves navigation and editing efficiency for the technical writers. As part of 15.3 version, Publication Manager is handling circular references more reliably during the baseline autocomplete. Previously, the Publication Manager required an internet connection during the installation, and where the main reason was the WebView 2 preview engine validation check. Now installation is more robust, and WebView 2 is default package for Windows installations. It is really an exceptional case if this module is missing on the installation. So in such cases, the customer needs to install the package before proceeding with installation of Publication Manager. And we also have better handling for not allowed characters in text range condition and improved logic for setting number range condition. Let's cover support for XML editors in context of Tridion Docs 15.3 release. So we will support the currently latest available Oxygen 28.1 in 15.3 release. It delivers a quick find filter in data maps manager. It also shows a chunk attribute on tooltip in data maps manager that can be useful in context of data chunking support for dynamic delivery, publishing, and Genius. And it also has a set of AI positron improvements. If you want to learn more about what is in Oxygen 28.1, you can visit their official release page. And this is an overview of all supported XML editors. So for Oxygen, let's repeat. So 28 is supported, 27 is deprecated, and 26 is obsolete. For XMetal, the support matrix remains the same as it was in previous 15.2 version. So XMetal 17 is obsolete, 18 is deprecated, and 19 is supported. And now let's continue with Oxygen AI Positron. So if you didn't know, AI Positron is an AI-powered assistant that helps with the writing process. It is installed as add-on for Oxygen, and it has its own licensing scheme. So the current licensing scheme for AI Positron is just for your information. So it can be subscription based, or in case you want to use your own AI provider, you have two options that depend on whether you have enterprise license or not. For more details, please contact Oxygen support team. And the following actions in AI Positron are verified to be compatible with Tridion Docs integrations and are enabled in the user interface. And all these actions are applicable to a single document object. AI Positron actions that are incompatible with Tridion Docs integrations are disabled in the user interface, and here you can see the list of actions that were disabled explicitly in the code. It is also important to mention that actions that will be introduced in future releases of AI Positron add-on, because they are releasing quite fast, and that are not yet included in the list of verified compatible actions, can be assessed for support in future versions of the product. So in other words, it means that new actions that will appear in the coming releases of AI Positron will be enabled in the UI, because we cannot explicitly disable them upfront, but they are considered experimental and require further validation. So let's convert list of actions that you saw on two previous slides into a table, so then you can better understand what is supported and what is not. So let's divide all the tools or actions of AI Positron into three categories. So you have a single object, multiple objects in the local storage, and multiple objects in the repository. And then you have create action and update action. So update action on a single object is working. AI Positron doesn't have integration with Tridion Docs repository, doesn't have direct integration. So create action doesn't work for all three cases. The same reason is why update for multiple files from the Tridion Docs repository are not supported as well. So, and AI Positron has a logic of getting context, and there are different places where context can be obtained for the AI Positron. To not explain all the details, in short, all places are local storage, and we cannot recommend our customers to download part of the repository or the entire repository to the local storage. That is why you see that an entry that it doesn't work for multiple files in the local repository. So let's see it in action. So let me open a topic. So as you can see, right from the start, there are some areas for improvements for the content of this topic. And yeah, as a first step, what we will do, we will generate a short description because I didn't provide it. So I can use short description action for this. So you can preview the suggestion, and yeah, if you are happy with a proposition that's provided by AI, you can click apply button, and then you have a short description in place. I also see that there are some grammatical mistakes that were made. So for example, this can be removed, and I see there are also others. So you can apply the action to entire topic or for example, for this paragraph. So let's start with the paragraph only. So we will use correct grammar action. So you can immediately apply the proposition or preview. So I would like to preview first to understand the change. So you can review the difference, and yeah, if you are happy with the change, you can click apply. So we fix the grammar mistakes for this paragraph, but let's do the same for entire topic. So let's correct the grammar for entire document object. Okay, so it's AI, not always doing what you want it to do. Let's try once more. Okay. Let's do it once more. Yeah, probably I forgot to switch the context from a paragraph to entire topic. That's why it was not suggesting any improvements. Okay, now we see that it reviewed the entire topic, so we can review the change that is proposed. And yeah, if you are happy with the correction, we can apply the change. So I also see that, for example, part of the content can be converted to a list that can be easier to consume by the end users. For example, we can start with this paragraph and see what it can suggest to us. So we will use itemize action. Okay, so if I'm happy with this one, I can immediately replace it in the content. So I also can see that, for example, this one also can be converted to a list. So let's see what AI can suggest for this content using the atomize section. So yeah, if you are happy with that one, yeah, you can review and say, okay, I'm happy with this one. I can apply the change. What I can also see that in general, readability can be improved for entire topic. So I can also use that action and improve readability and see what AI Positron can suggest as an improvement. So in this case, it's better to compare the difference just to see if it suits what I think I would like to propose to the end user. So okay, let's accept the change, and yeah, maybe after some thoughts you decide that yeah, maybe that dividing this paragraph into the list made it more even complex than it was. So maybe like having a paragraph it's better in this case. So what we can do, we can convert this one list into the paragraph again. So let's see what can be suggested. Okay, so yeah, it seems like it's not a bad proposition, so we can immediately apply the change. So as soon as you are happy with the content of your topic, you can check in it to your repository. Now let's switch to the deck once again. So yeah, I would like to show you for a reference a list of features for Tridion Docs 15.3 release that are available. So a brand new publication editor in browser-based, organized space and updates for that one, collective spaces with updates for draft space and review space, client tools features that we covered during this bootcamp, updates for the delivery platform and API updates. And with this, I would like to say thank you for joining our bootcamp for Tridion Docs 15.3 release and client tools.